Hello and welcome to our screencast on creating a UBD 2.0 template. This is for current technical education teachers who are trying to use this tool. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually locate the UBD 2.0 template. And I'm going to open up my web browser to make that happen. And I've put into my search parameter UBD 2.0 template. I'm just going to hit return in Google. And it is going to come up as actually being the very top link on the search results from Jay McTighe, the author of UBD, one of the creators of it. And this is a template he has created, and while it is accessible for us on our shared drive at the school, honestly, sometimes it is quicker for me just to go into Google and search UBD 2.0 template, and there it is. And when I click on it, it is going to give me the option of opening it right up in Microsoft Word, which is fantastic. And it makes it really easy to work with. Now, one of the first things to think about is what is a unit? Because in the traditional world of current technical education, a lot of times we worked on what was put in front of us. A car would come in, we would work on that car. A person wanted a shed built, we would build that shed. And we kind of worked our competencies and our teaching into that. As we move to being more of a standards-based education system, a competency-based education system, it is really critical to us and to our students to assure that we are teaching the right content and that we are not just lightly covering things, but really moving towards understanding on the fundamentals. Because we all know there are some things which are nice for students to know, and there are some things which are really requirements. And here in the state of New Hampshire, those requirements should be identified by the New Hampshire DOE competencies. Now, one of the things you'll probably say is, well, it takes me an entire year to really cover some of the competencies, and that is true. But there is probably a point in time when you are explicitly doing something to try to cover particular new knowledge, and those are your units. Often for us, those are in the beginning part of the year when we're working with the new students. So let's look at the UBD template here and look down at established goals, because the established goals are the kind of the so what, the why are we teaching something? Is this just I as a teacher think this is important, or has this been established by other folks, by employers, by experts in the field to say, yes, this is a valid and critical piece of content? So because I'm a media teacher by training, I'm going to do a unit on camera operations. And camera operations certainly would be something which I would teach throughout the year of my program, but there is going to be a point at the beginning of the year where I'm going to be focusing on the fundamental, the non-negotiable, the basic camera operations that students need to do for their competencies. So I have also opened up my media competency list here for film, video, and photographic arts. And to get us all on the same page, the DOE has identified this column to the left as being the quote-unquote competencies. And these are very broad statements. Things such as understand the functions and uses of cameras, computers, audio equipment, lights, and related equipment that are critical in the photographic film video industry. Well, that competency is probably going to be a theme throughout many units I do over the course of a 2-year program. So when I'm going to do my unit design, I'm actually going to focus a little bit more on this second column, this column over here, which they're calling knowledge, content, and skills. It's a little bit of semantics about which is competencies and which are knowledge, content, and skills. So what we did last year, if you remember, is we went through and we numbered this left column as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so on. So that, for example, this would be 4.22, identify the 6 elements of composition, or 3.19, identify different media advantages and disadvantages. So that'll be knowledge and content skill number 19 under competency number 3. Because if you try to hit an entire competency in one unit, one of these big far left-hand columns, you're going to be really frustrated. So for camera operations, I feel that these top 3 competencies, or these knowledge, content, and skills, if you want to think about it this way, are probably the most applicable about identifying different types of lenses, different types of cameras, a little bit about lighting units as well. But let's say 1 and 2 are my really important ones. So I'm going to copy those, and I'm going to switch myself back over to my UBD template, and I'm going to actually paste those right in there. And I'm going to put a little notation that these are NHDOE competencies, so I know that's where they came from. And now I might go back over to my competency list and say, this unit also is going to cover number 7. Identify various related equipment such as tripods, stands, cables. I could feel like that is really critical, so I'll copy that and bring that one over as well. And then, just to be completely clear, this is 1.1, 1.2, and 1.7. So it is competency 1, content, knowledge, skill 1, 2, and 7. Okay. Now they don't have to use just DOE competencies. There are other things you could use in here. You could use the Common Core. You could use some industry competencies. There are different organizations which people are affiliated with. Skills USA has competencies. Maybe the Board of Nursing has competencies. Those could go in here, but we're going to, at this point in time, just worry about the New Hampshire DOE. And I've identified these 3 competencies as being really critical. So there is a whole process in UBD about turning these into the unit. However, I think we are going to instead trust our knowledge as professional educators a little bit and understand that the units we have are pretty solid, and we're going to go ahead and not go through the process of unpacking the competencies, which is a whole separate activity in and of itself. And instead we're going to jump right over to transfer. And transfer is, okay, when students are done going through the activities, learning, having done the assessment at the end of it, what will they be able to do? Students will be able to independently use their learning to do what? And this is something which you're going to put in your own words. And the temptation I've seen some people have is they want to take these things, these knowledge, skills, and put those over here. Well, those are very, 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 very specific things, and I think we're looking for a broader statement here. What would they use all of these together to do? And in this case, I would say they'd use all of them together to use video recording equipment to capture meaningful and compelling images. That's what I want them to be at the end of the day, to use everything from understanding lenses to lighting to tripods. So what? Why does that matter? Because they need to be able to use whatever video recording or photographic equipment to capture meaningful and compelling images. And that's kind of what I'm going for. Now, before we close out today, we'll move down to the category of understandings. And understandings are really an expansion of that transfer goal. Students will understand what. And here you want to avoid things which are very tied to technology. You don't want to, it's not them being able to identify vocabulary or things like that. It is, if you had 30 seconds to teach your class and you want this, what would be the one thing you'd want the kids to walk away from? And so something I might want them to really know is that choice of camera and lenses will impact the finished product. And I also want them to know that camera techniques convey emotion and meaning to an audience. And maybe I might have a third understanding that the ability to select the appropriate tool for a production job is critical. That they need to know you don't just show up for a documentary in the Serengeti with a handy cam. You have to have the right equipment. So those are the understandings. And again, these are in some ways taking these very prescriptive competencies or performance tasks, if you want to look at them that way, and turning them into things which are hopefully meaningful things which can resonate with the students time in and time again. Now, you may notice I didn't put in the overall competency 1, which was, if we go back here, was understand the functions and uses of cameras, computers, audio equipment, lights, and related equipment that are critical in the photographic film video industry. And I could do that. I could put that up here and then list these underneath it. But it is just such a broad concept that I don't feel like I could ever cover that in a single unit. Then the essential questions are things which you can throw out to students to get them thinking about why the heck any of this matters. If you've ever been asked by a student, why do I need to know how to do this? Why does this matter? Well, here's where you answer, here's where you kind of put that question back on them again. So an essential question around this, a lot of times, is a restatement of the understanding as a question. So the essential question might be, how does camera and lens choice impact the finished product? What specific techniques can be used to create emotions in an audience? What factors might a person consider when selecting equipment for a particular job? And now in this case, I made them very direct one-on-one relations to that. You don't have to do that, but it made it kind of easy for me because it really reiterated the fact that this is what's important. The other things which are important about the essential questions is that there's not necessarily a single right or wrong answer. There may be a number of different answers which would appropriately address the concerns you have here. So to summarize, in our UBD template, we are looking for those contained pieces of curriculum where we have specific goals in mind. We're using our New Hampshire DOE competencies to inform and justify why we're doing this unit. Our transfer is what do we want students to be able to do in a nutshell at the end of the unit. And the understandings and essential questions are kind of the big, heavy topics put into terms and words which hopefully would make sense for a student. And if I said to a student, what specific techniques can be used to create emotions in an audience, at the end of my teaching, they would know the answer to that question. And in our next video, we will talk a little bit about acquisition and then move into stage 2. Thank you.